Welcome in, builders. This week we're taking a look at Late Age Erytheia, Kingdom of Two Worlds. Trade and contacts with dry land have increased to the point where Pelagian mermen have established colonies in coastal lands. A former Arcecephalan colony and the Pelagian colony of Erytheia, the Red Land, were joined through marriage. When the Triton kings of the deep succumbed to a strange slumber, the former capital Pelagia was almost abandoned. The mermen had become more numerous, and those Tritons who did not succumb to sleep gradually became a privileged minority ruling the scattered Pelagian seas. Eventually, civil war between the Triton princes broke out. While the Triton battled in the seas, the mermen withdrew and formed a new coastal kingdom of mermen, Tritons, and humans in Erytheia. When the Triton principalities isolated themselves, the Pelagian traditions and legacy were carried on by the mystics of the Red Land. Under the rule of mermen, kings of both worlds, the former colony thrived and expanded on land and in the seas. Now, Erytheia is a coastal kingdom, with some underwater provinces governed by marginalized Triton nobility unable to visit the high court of the merman king. The Tritons resent the current situation, and some fear this might lead to another civil war. The Triton nobles and generals have started to gather armies to reclaim the depths once theirs, to gain wealth or fiefdoms, or simply to prove their worth to the king of both worlds. For national features, as a race, we have land and underwater, whatever that means, and we prefer a heat scale +1. What that means is we have humans, we have mermen, and we have tritons. It's a weird way to say that. For military, we have amphibious mermen, aquatic tritons, and some humans. We have light infantry and heavy infantry. We also have crossbows. Magic, all elementals, astral, and a little bit of nature. Triton mages can convert water gems into astral pearls. That means we can do pearl farming. Our priests are strong, but possibly insane. That has to do with our Prince of the Setting Sun and Princess of the Setting Sun and a mechanic that they have. For skills and blesses, we have a hate limit of +1. We build standard force of the era. That means that we can go all the way up to citadels. For sites, we have 2. We have the Palace of the Setting Sun. This allows us to get our Prince and Princess, a Fire Gem, and an Astral Pearl. And we have the Red River, which allows us to get our Sacred Unit and another Fire Gem and a Water Gem. Overall, decent income there. And we have mages who can definitely make use of those. Units and Sacreds. For units, we kind of have 2 separate groups. We have the land recruits and we have the water recruits. And specifically, a lot of our recruits, even if they are land, are coastal forts only. So depending on your map generation, it can actually be a little bit painful. We don't have a lot of choices to recruit on inland forts. So you have to be a little bit careful about that. First up, we have the Mashimos. This is a light human troop with human stats. Very low protection, iron cap, leather cuirass, and a shield. Has a short sword that's actually not terrible. 11 attack, 15 piercing slashing. That's okay. And a human javelin. Not a fan in the late age. Do note this is kind of the militia equivalent. Only 9 morale, so not impressive there. Next up, we have the Theriophorite. This can be recruited underwater and in coastal forts. Again, another relatively light troop. This one is a merman. It is currently showing us the land form. The stats change ever so slightly when they're underwater. Has a bronze spear, a javelin, a bronze cap, a leather cuirass, and a shield. I will call out, just remember that if you have iron gear, which some of our troops do, it'll rust if you go underwater, and you need to go to a fort and wait a turn or 2, and it uses up resources to try to repair that. So it is kind of important that we have troops, if we're going to use their amphibious nature, that don't rust out on us. Overall, it's very cheap. It's human-like stats, but amphibious, not the best thing ever. Next up, we have the Erytheian crossbowmen. Can only be recruited in coastal forts. Again, this is showing us in land form. They are amphibians, so they can go underwater. And key here, they can actually shoot underwater with these crossbows. The Gastrofets, I'm probably saying that wrong, but that's essentially, it means underwater crossbow, basically. About human level stats, give or take again. Okay morale, good magic resistance, bronze cap, and a leather cuirass. That's fine. It is at 7 resources, which I like on crossbows. Has a bronze dagger, which they're actually kind of good with, although they're weak, so they can't really do much with it. And the crossbow itself isn't terrible. It's a little on the lighter side. It fires 1 every 2 rounds, range of 25. Underwater, it halves that range, has extra 2 precision, and has 12 ammo. So not a terrible one, and it's good enough for most, but the heaviest troops. So it's great to have a native crossbow, and a nice cheap one at that. And doubly so because you can use it underwater. Most things underwater don't really use bucklers or shields because they don't really fight range weapons. So the most things down there are like sea trolls or a kraken or something will just get absolutely pincushioned by these. Do note that small range though. Next up, we have the Erytheian hoplites, again, underwater or coastal fort. This is the bronze equipment. 12 gold, 29 resources, 14 recruitment points. So about double the resources compared to recruitment points. About human stats. Good protection, bronze halberd, a hoplite shield, and a hoplon. Do note, high encumbrance. 9 encumbrance is pretty beefy. I believe when you're underwater, that goes down to 8, I want to say, and your combat speed goes up a little bit, not significantly. These also have formation fighter, so you can fit 4 of them into a square, so your attack density isn't too bad. And the length 4 bronze spears, okay. Unfortunately, they only attack skill 10, and they're only 13 piercing damage, so they're going to struggle to do damage. They would certainly like some strength of giants if you could get it to them, or some attack buffs so they could repel better. Overall, they're okay at holding the line. They do have 18 protection, but they're going to poop out really quick on you, so just be aware of that. Also, as kind of expensive formation fighters, your front line that you're expecting to catch things and not let them slip by to your back line is going to be significantly shorter than you might think. So just be aware of that. Next up, we have the Erytheian Knight. My apologies. Can only be recruited in coastal forts. Do note here, this is iron gear. So despite the fact that these are amphibious, just be aware of that. If you're going underwater, you're going to rust out. Your weapon and your armor will not be as good as it normally is. These guys have 14 piercing damage and an 11 attack though, so that is better. I still don't like that 14 pierce, but better. Skill mill halberd, a hoplite helmet, and a hoplon gives them 21 on the head and 14 on the body. That's acceptable use for a line troop. I do note 20 resources, 18 recruitment points, so actually kind of cheaper. I think it's because the gear is a little easier to make than the bronze gear, essentially. But just be aware of those limitations. Next up, we have our cap-only Sacred, the Soldier of the Setting Sun. Cool, I'll give him that. 30 gold, 36 resources, 31 recruitment points. Better than human stats, but only just... Well, those are good. I'll give them that. Very slow. Combat speed of 5 is very, very slow. And a map move of only 10 is also kind of slow on the map. Good protection at 18, and that's 18 on the body and higher on the head. Good magic resistance, good morale. They are sacred, of course. They are amphibious. They have sun awe. So sun awe means you get awe. However, there must be a sun present. So if you're in the cave, if it's utter dark, if somebody has like steal the sun up or things like that, you don't get your awe. So be aware of where you're going, that may turn off. They're also formation fighters. They wield a pearl blade. It's a length 1, basically a short sword. They're pretty good with it at attack 12, and it does 16 magic piercing slashing damage. So perfectly acceptable weapon. Nice that it's magical. Gear-wise, bronze halberd, a hoplon helmet, and a pearl shield. The pearl shield's 16 defense, 5 parry, and it's magic. Magic gear is harder to destroy, so I guess that's a thing. These guys aren't stellar, but they're not misery either. They really need some stats or something going on to kind of give them some juice. Weirdly enough, because they're formation fighters, they work well with our other formation fighters for our line. But again, just know your line is going to be kind of short. So I don't think I'm hell-blessing these guys or anything, but they're definitely going to need something if they're going to actually be able to do overly much. Next into our set of troops are our underwater troops. We have a Triton militia, has a coral spear. It's a militia troop. Coral spears do have some light poison damage. They're not stellar and they're aquatic only. I'm not a huge fan. Next, we have the Triton soldier, underwater forts only. Again, aquatic. This is a better troop. A short bronze trident is a pretty effective weapon, and this is a okay troop. 14 protection, bronze cuirass, bronze cap, turtle shield. It's okay. I'm not stellar. Then we have the Triton Hoplon. Again, pretty good stats here. I mean, 16 HP, 12 strength. That's pretty good. 13 gold, 27 resources, 16 recruitment points. Has a coral long spear. That's handy. Bronze halberd, hoplite helmet, turtle shell shield. These guys are fine, but I really dislike aquatic troops. If you're in an underwater war with a player, sure, go ahead and use them because they'll give you the best troops you can get for the underwater fighting. But then the war ends and you can't do anything. In a recent stream, we had a Erytheia that could have maybe stopped me from winning the game, but most of their troops were aquatic only, and they needed to do an amphibious landing, which they obviously couldn't do. So womp womp. Finally, we have the Triton Knight. Again, pretty good little guy here. 50 gold, 49 resources, 48 recruitment points. So they're pricey, but they come in with recuperation, an actual lance, and a bronze spear. Bronze halberd, bronze cap, turtle shield. They have an armored hippocampa, which is, again, aquatic only, has recuperation, is an animal, and is a smart mount. Overall, these are fine. They do have barding even. Has a magic attack on their horn and a secondary attack, which is great. So again, if you have to do some underwater fighting, like intense fighting, a few of these are fine. But no, you don't want these guys hanging around for 12 gold a year if they're not going to do anything underwater. So it can be a little iffy there. If only these were amphibious, that would be such a huge improvement. Heroes, commanders, and prophet. For heroes, we have two. We have triple-headed. This is a weird one. So it's like a triple-headed like giant, like a Marconi giant kind of guy. And he has a Hound of Twilight with him every battle. Comes in with Fire 1, Earth 2, and is unsurroundable. Has a golden spear and the gleaming gear from ages past. He's cool. Those aren't horrible paths. Give yourself like Tipper Flesh, Iron Skin, maybe Fire Shield. You could thug it out some. A Hound of Twilight's not a weak unit either, so that could do something. Secondly, we have the Herdsman. This is a Nature 1 guy. He is a Beastmaster. He summons allies. I believe he summons in Mouflons. I didn't get him in my test game, so I can't say for certain. He's fine. Does bring in some nature, I suppose. Nothing too crazy there, unfortunately. Going up to commanders, we start off with a Scout, which is land and underwater fort. It is an amphibious scout with 50 stealth for 35 gold, 6 resources. That's totally fine. Good scout. Amphibious is a nice bonus. Next, we have the Lashimos Commander. This is a 75 leadership commander, unfortunately, using a short sword, which he's okay with. Has the Hoplon helmet, scale mail cuirass, and a shield. Do note that the cuirass is iron, and he is not amphibious because this is a human. So just be aware of that. Next up, we have the Erytheia Commander. Underwater forts and coastal forts. Our better commander here, 100 leadership, better than human stats. Only 95 gold, 31 resources, 1 recruitment point. Does have formation fighter and is an amphibian. Has the same problem with encumbrance that our troops have, but does come with a magic weapon standard, which is nice. Next up, we have the No March. This is our priest. It's a priest level 2, actually. Comes in with amphibious, a patrol bonus, tax collector, and he's uninspiring, so not a very good leader of troops. It's fine. Good for preaching because he's a priest level 2, banishing, etc. Can do some sermons of courage for your troops. Although we're not particularly cowardly, it never hurts to have a little more morale. Next, we have the Human Mystic. 125 gold, 1 resource, 2 recruitment points. Human stats. Guaranteed Astral 1. And you get a random 100% chance of fire, water, earth, or astral. So you can double astral here. And overall, I wouldn't say those are the best paths, especially for just level 1. But because you could power spheres, you could get those up to 2 if you had to. Maybe do something else. They have Adept Researcher +1, giving them 10 research for 100 gold. Smack on what I consider efficient. These guys are fine. Not the best battle mages, but they're also relatively cheap, especially if you want some body ethereal spammers. They could be your guys to do that. Also, recruit anywhere. We don't, anywhere as in any fort. They don't have a coastal requirement or an underwater requirement, so can be just your only option sometimes. Next, we have Mermage, underwater and coastal. These are merfolk mages, come in with water 1 and 100% chance of fire, water, earth, or astral. Overall, we have better amphibious troops. I think the Mystic is a more efficient troop because Astral 1 is better than Water 1. He's 135 gold, 108 gold per year for only 9, so he's quite a bit less efficient than our other one. Not the hugest fan here. Next, we have the Dadukus, and this is a good combat mage. 255 gold is a little pricey. Note that this is a recruit underwater or coastal fort. So a little on the pricey side, but fire 1, astral 1, and you get a 100% chance of fire, air, water, earth, astral. And then 3 separate 50% chances to get a 50% chance of water, a 50% chance of earth, and a 50% chance of air. So you could hit all 3 of those and you're guaranteed 1 from the top. So that's an additional 4 paths, making this a 6-path mage for only 255 gold. That's not terrible. They have 15 research for 102 gold a year. So nice and efficient there. The adept researcher +2 contributing to that. They're wielding a torch for some reason, which does armor piercing fire magic damage and lights people on fire. That's kind of cool. I don't know how much use you'll get, but you never know. Overall, fine. You're really hoping for like some good pathing to hit. Let's just put it that way. Quite random. Some of them are more useful than others. If nothing else, they could hop into a communion, or they could do some body ethereal or some twist fate. So they're always going to be useful, some of which are more useful than others. Next, we're into our cap-only mages. We have the Prince of the Setting Sun and the Princess of the Setting Sun. The Prince is Fire 1, Astral 1, Priest level 2, and has a 100% chance of air and water and earth. And then a bunch of individual 25% chances for fire, fire, air, water, water, earth, astral, astral. So again, in theory, you can hit every single one of these paths, making this a, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 path mage for 300 gold. What's the downside? Well, A, they're slow to recruit. B, they're kind of expensive at 300, although that's not terrible. C, they're insane. Insane means there's a 5% chance they just do something wacky like burn your temple down or preach or do something else. That can be really annoying, and it can be devastating if it happens at the wrong time. That being said, though, that's a lot of paths and a lot of magic power. As we saw with our troops are not particularly impressive. We really need the magic oomph to get our troops up and running, or at least have the troops hold the line while they do the actual work. And there's also a mechanic involved with these guys, but we'll talk about that in a second. Next, we have the Princess of the Setting Sun. Very similar. Fire 1, Water 1 has a Air, Earth, Astral 100%. And then individual 25s for fire, fire, air, water, water, earth, earth, astral. Again, can get absolutely crazy. I think of note here, the decent odds of getting at least an earth 2 is really nice. That would be what? 25% of 33%. So that's not the worst odds, not great, but not the worst. The thing that's important here, she's very similar to him, has the sun off. He also had sun off, by the way. Also is insane. We are playing in the late age, and these are our like incest mermaids. So a prince and a princess in your capital will have an event where they get married and become the king and queen, which will give them some stat boosts. It will up them to, I believe it gives them +1 holy level. So if you already made one of these your prophet, they'd go up to 4, or if you prophetize them later, they would also go up to 4. The downside is if you have 2 princes, or, well, any number of princes in the same province or any number of princesses, they'll start assassinating each other because they're trying to become the next king or queen. So you can have them go in pairs, that's fine, but you can't have multiples of the same gender. You have to separate them. So the king and queen are really important. If you don't have them when that event pops, you get some unrest. In the game behind us here, that popped on turn 9, and it gave me, I think it was 9 unrest, so it wasn't terrible. I don't know how much variance that has. but I do think it would be worth having it out just for the other boosts. That means we could have 3 holy 3s, just having a prophet plus 2 of those, or we could have a holy 4, which can be useful at times. Overall, a lot of mage power here for darn cheap at the 300 price point. So we have 3 kind of random, but possibly very powerful mages. Underwater, we have the Triton Noble. This one requires an underwater fort and just the underwater fort. It's the leader equivalent of the cavalry guys. They're fine. No magic weapons or anything, I will note. We have the Triton Priest. This is a priest level 1 aquatic priest, and that's what he does. It's fine, I guess. I would probably prefer the on-land merman priest level 2 guy, but maybe you have a use for him. And finally, we have the Pearl Mage. Pearl Mage is 245 gold for a Water 2 Astral 1 with a 100% chance of air, water, astral, nature. So a little pricey, honestly, for what you're going to get. A 4-path mage for that when we could get, I think it was a 6-path mage for 255. But they also have the Pearl Cultivator. Pearl Cultivator allows them, this is Pearl Cultivator 3, so we could take 3 water gems and turn them into 3 astral gems. Why is that important? Well, normally you would need 6 water gems to make 3 astral pearls. This is a nation that definitely can get a lot of astral pearls. The big thing you would do if you were going to have a long game would be go towards Wish and invest all those there. Otherwise, I find this to be a little dubious. It's going to just depend on how much water income you have, how much water you need to win underwater wars. These are excellent water mages because they can spam out summon water power, and then they can summon in some full-size water elementals. They also can do body ethereal on our troops. That's war winning right there. And then they also can get, a little bit of extra oomph out of whatever other path they get. So really good on that. A little pricey. 13 research for 196 makes them very inefficient mages compared to our other options. I would mainly get a few of these guys to win underwater wars, maybe do some crafting. You could get a water 3 guy and he could make you robes of the sea, for example. Or if you were going to do pearl cultivation, I think that's the main use. I would say our main battle mage is probably the Dudukus, who is just going to have more paths in general. Yeah, they're kind of random, but they're good randoms. You'll find something for them to do. I don't think that's too bad. Who would I make my prophet? Generally speaking, I would probably be looking to the Erytheian commander as just your generic prophet. If not him, and do know he's amphibious. If not him, then maybe one of the prince or princesses, or more likely the king and queen, just to get up to a priest level 4, which is kind of cool. That allows you to do fanaticism, which is a map-wide sermon of courage. Can be kind of useful in certain fights, for sure. Overall, the commanders are fine. The mages are, I'm going to say, decent to good, and they need to be because our troops are kind of letting down. Thank goodness we have the crossbow. We're going to hold the line with something, and we're going to mage and crossbow things. Do note, just to call it out before I forget, we can do flaming arrows on those crossbows relatively well. So that's one way that we can up our damage on land, at least. I don't think flaming crossbows work underwater. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure flaming arrows is above water only. As for national items, we have no national items. As for national spells, we actually have a decent number here. Some of our old favorites and some newish ones here too. Starting in Conjuration at Conjuration 3, Pride of Lions. They're lions. We don't really have good access to Nature 2. 9 nature gems. We don't have native income. Probably not happening. At Conjuration 5, we have Summon Hound of Twilight. We don't natively have Death, so you would need to bring in probably Pretender or Empower or something to get that. These are decent chassis. They're not bad. I like them. We also have Summon Hectorides. These are pretty good. Again, you would be looking at a Pretender though. 3 nature and a water. 30 nature gems to summon. If you did get them though, these are pretty good. They are Foul Vapors casters. I believe they're nature 3 water 2s. We'll look at them when we're done here. Next at 6, we have Hesperides. These are again pretty decent. They're a fire mage that we can summon in with fire gems. Remember, we have 2 native fire income. 3 fire and an astral is doable, but very rare. maybe worth even empowering somebody if you got like a Fire 2 Astral 1 guy to be able to summon these in, because summonable mages that are somewhat affordable are really nice. At 3 fire and 2 nature, we have Call Ledon. This is I'm going to call him like a unique hero dragon summon. Like if he dies, you can't just resummon him, but he's not bad. He's not bad. He's I'm going to say super combatant. We'll look at the chassis. At 6, we also, for 3 earth and a air, we can summon Dactyl. These are kind of like those, I'm going to call them water dwarves. I don't think they're technically dwarves, but little water dudes. And they are for 30 earth gems. So a bit steep on that, but again, 30 earth gems for a mage isn't terrible. And these are crafters that you can summon in, which is pretty handy. Next up in construction, we have Forge Brass Bowl, 3 fire, 3 earth, 25 fire gems. I actually like this chassis quite a bit. We don't really have a great shot at this, although I guess a princess could do it. Earth 2 puts on earth boots, fire, let's say 2, and then gets either a booster or an empower. That's not terrible. If you can buff a brass bowl with like iron skin, maybe temper flesh or something like that, they'll just go to town. They have a fire breath, they have trample, they're great. Caladones are auto communion statues, but the problem with them is they don't have paths, so they tend to blow out really easily. I never really find myself particularly wanting those. Next in enchantment, at enchant 6, we have Sow Dragon Teeth. It is an Earth 2 spell, costs 1 Earth Gem, summons in 10 effects. These are actually really nice. They are of like magic gear. They're skeletal things that aren't undead. Let's take a look at all that stuff. So these are, let's start with those. The Sparte. Golden Spear, so a magic spear, does 16 piercing damage, and they're really good at it. They have formation fighters, so they'll fit in your line just fine. Magic gear, giving them 19 protection. They are amphibious, they are pierce resistant, cold resistant, poison resistant. They are magic beings, inanimates. They have spirit sight. These are quite nice. You get 10 of them for 1 cast. So summon earth power, and then maybe you cast this, like, I think you could probably get it off twice. That's 20 extra troops on the field that are pretty good. It is a battlefield spell, though, so your mileage may vary on that a little bit. Going through other things in here. I don't believe we actually have Lampads. I could not find that spell. If I'm wrong about that, let me know, but I think this is my mod being a little weird here again. Okay, here's the Cocotoros. Again, I like these a lot. Size 8 Trampler, has a fire breath that it likes to use quite a bit. Perfectly fine. Hounds of Twilight, especially if you're going up against Lemuria, that's a lot of ghost running attacks, which paralyze ghosts if they hit and don't kill. Also just as a fear chassis. He really would like some protection buffs and body ethereal if you're going to send him in to fight basically most things. But if you can get him fluffed up, it's a pretty decent little chassis. The Calcadrone, again, these guys have the auto communion slave, but no pathing. So I tend to find they just blow out really easily. Not a huge fan of those. The Great Lions, they do have dark vision, so maybe they could help you underground if you somehow got all that nature. The Dactyl, this is the little water dwarf dude. I guess it says Dwarven Daimons. So Air 1, Water 1, Earth 2, and 110% of Fire, Air, Water, Earth, Death. So that, I guess we do have a little bit of death, maybe kind of, sort of, if you build a guide to summon these in. 15 research is fine. They are sacred. Amphibians, magic beings, and they have Master Smith. Master Smith makes all their paths count as 1 higher for the requirements to craft things. So, for example, this guy right here can craft flying boots, which require Air 2. Nice ability. Hard to get, though. 3 earth and an air is kind of specific. We can do it, but it's going to be rare. A pretender wouldn't be the worst thing ever to summon these guys. They're not that expensive. Hectorides, Water 2, Nature 3, Priest level 2. They have Awe 6. They are amphibious, magic beings, poison resistant, recuperation, reduce unrest. Great caster. Gives us some foul vapors availability, which can be nice for a surprise, especially for a nation that's not. If someone just looks at your mages, they're not going to see foul vapors potential. So that could be a little bit of a surprise there. All she really needs is a Thistle Mace, and she's good to go. That's not terrible. Hesperides. This is the Fire 3 Astral 1 summon. And again, Fire 3 is also Flame Spirits, so you have to weigh that a little bit. I think these are way better though. 3 Astral, 2 Nature, Priest levels, they have the Awe, they have Fire Resist, they have Recuperation. This is a Disease Healer 3, which is kind of nice. Again, just summonable mages that aren't stupid expensive are always handy to have if you can get enough of them. Finally, with the Drakon Hesperos, this was the guy that guarded the golden apple. Yeah, it's fine. It doesn't have immortality, and if it dies, it's dead. But you get 144 HP on a 20% regen, fear 10, poison resist 15, cold-blooded, swimming, swamp survival, gluttony, unsurroundable chassis. Has 3 fang attacks with death poison on them. Has 3 crowns and laurel slots and 2 miscellaneous slots. Again, this guy really wants to be fluffed up. With just Iron Skin alone, taking him to about 25, 26 makes him very hard to deal with. That's like crappy Expander Pretender levels for this guy. And he does have 20% regen, which is pretty nice. I think you're going to be happy to have this guy if you probably build a Pretender to get him, because you're not going to get him natively, most likely. Beyond that, we have quite a smattering of magic that we're going to want. Starting in Conjuration, the empowerment spells are going to be important, including the astral ones. We have a decent amount of all the elemental stuff. So any of the elemental summons, depending on what's happening in your game, could be useful. Especially, I would say, water elementals. We are pretty good at underwater wars. So if you have to fight Relay or Atlantis, you're probably heading towards water elementals, just to make sure you can own the seas. In Alteration, again, we have a lot of stuff that we could use here. Air Shield, Personal Mistform, or buffing other people with Mistform. We can do both the nature buffs a little bit, but more likely we can do some of the earth buffs for protection and whatnot. We can do the Body Ethereal and Twist Fate. Again, very nice. Our troops are not very killy, so making them very survivable to give our mages time to do the killing is very much needed, I would say. Evo, we have the ability to make pretty decent communions, so you could basically Evo whatever you want. I would call out probably, because we would prefer heat, we have the extra heat scale in our nation, I would probably head towards Falling Fires, but because we have so many crosspath stuff, like Flame Clouds could happen, we could do lightning stuff, we could do water stuff, we could do acid stuff pretty decently. All those would be perfectly fine. Moving up to construction, we do have some unique stuff, although it's not like stellar. I do think we are good crafters just because of our availability of pathing. Do remember some special crafts such as things like Rune Smashers, which is, I believe, Fire 2, Water 2, if off the top of my head, gives you an extra magic pin, and then we can make the magic pin items from Astral, so you can get quite a lot of magic pin on a lot of your mages if you're going that route. Also, while we don't have a necessarily great Thug chassis, we might want some gear for various reasons, or if you make a Titan Pretender, give him some gear, could be kind of handy. In enchantment, Strength of Giants is going to be kind of rare for our mages to be able to cast, but every single one of our troops would absolutely love it. It would take our damage from not good enough to good enough. It would help our crossbows out. It would help our long spears out. It would help our pearl blades out. We really, really, really would like Strength of Giants, even if it's going to be a bit rare. We would be okay, I think, in most crossbow duels, being able to give ourselves protection or air shield or protection from arrows, etc., would definitely be preferable. Again, ignite arrows, yeah, definitely can't cast that underwater. Pretty good here. Remember, our crossbow only deals 11 damage, so adding a second hit with some extra damage would just make sure we could win duels quite handily. Gift of Flight could be interesting. Flame Shields maybe could be interesting. We can make Terracotta Armories, just again for more chaff in the front of our mages. And this is a pretty effective spell. We could realistically get like Fire 3 Earth 1s. So you would be getting 17 of these guys for 9 gems. Not the worst thing I've ever seen. Beyond that, Flame Ward, Flaming Arrows. The cold stuff can be kind of interesting. Friendly Currents is a buff spell for your whole army underwater. Don't see that one very often, but it can be good. Quagmire on land might be something interesting. It helps fatigue out Things aren't good in swamps. Thaumaturgy. Thaumaturgy gets us communions, of course. Also gets us mind burn. Beyond that, we also get the Battle Fury line, which gives extra attack skill and morale. Extra attack skill would really help out our repels on a lot of our troops. The flame prisons are fine, I would say. Sight searching, remote sight searching wouldn't be terrible here. Most of the ones we would want to do are here. So we could do Horospeck, we could do Augury, we could do Gnome Lore at 4. All those could be things that are pretty useful. Overall, because of our strong elemental communions, you could pretty much pick whatever elements you want to do. You want to do Army of Mist, you can do it. You want to do... I would say the Earth ones are harder, but you could do it with enough effort. You could even do Earth communions and get that up and running. Astral stuff would be fine too. Most of our mages that we really want to be using have guaranteed Astral. So a Light of the Northern Star would guarantee they're up to Astral 2s and can mind burn. Could be pretty handy there. Overall, I would say our magic is a good strong point for this nation. Okay, let's bring all that together. Erytheia is a nation that is all right on land, although they really want their forts on the coast and not on the interior of the land. This fort here, I mean, I could get a crappy light infantry. A light infantry. That's my only troop choice. I could get my bad leader. I can get a scout. I can get a mystic, and I can get my priest. That's it from that fort. So you really need to have a reason. I mean, maybe it's just money, but I would strongly bias my expansion to take up coastal spots. In addition, we can relatively easy go underwater and we can fight underwater well. So there's no reason that we shouldn't get in the seas and take over all the seas that we can. That also means we oftentimes can do amphibious assaults on thrones that are on the coast. So it makes that pretty good. Also, you can move quite quickly underwater. So this is like 2 moves. If I was here, 1, 2, 3, 4 moves. So you can move relatively quickly by using water routes. Beyond that, I would say that we're okay underwater. I think Atlantis still wins underwater, especially if it's very cold. But we can at least give them a run for their money. And a lot of their troops don't want to rock shields, so the crossbows might be a little bit of an edge that we can give ourselves. And their Stygian skin shenanigans. We actually have some magic weapons natively, so we can bypass a little bit of that. Plus, we have a lot more magic variety than they have. They're mostly focused in on water and death. We can do all elementals and some astral. So we definitely can out-magic them there. And the crossbows, I think, is a nice little edge. Beyond that, do remember that you need a prince and a princess in your capital to get that event to positively come out. And I think you definitely want to do that. Having 3 holy 3s on a nation that otherwise you'd only have 1 is a nice little grab there. Pretenders and scales. We actually have a pretty robust lineup here. We ended up with the Greek line and the Egyptian line, and most of just the common stuff. So pretty good little mix here. Starting in Dom 1, Great Enchantress, if you did want to go into Glamour for some reason, is a gem gen and very cheap. Rapid Rising Star in my likes of things to build. We do have the Great Sage if you want to go Awake Research. We do also have a cheap Awake guy who is a researcher himself, although he's not an inspiring researcher. He's also a fortune teller, which could be handy. 27 research with just no other pathing yet is pretty strong. Really good for rushing to, say, Body Ethereal, if that's what you wanted to do. He's fine at 80 points. That's a good price point for him, I would say. Moving up to Dom 2, we have a lot of good stuff here. I think there's a decent argument to be made that we want an expander, whether that's going to be a monster or maybe a titan. We have okay troops to kind of bad and expensive in resources. So we really want to get out and taking our cap circle as soon as possible. In addition, most monsters, in fact, I can't think of anyone who doesn't have at least a miscellaneous slot. We can just craft them a water breathing ring and they can help us underwater too. So we would need construction 1, I believe, for that. And that's maybe it's 3, whichever. It's easy to get a ring of water breathing and we can get out there and doing that pretty quick. We do still have access to a Token God King. I do like that chassis quite a bit. We're going to look at a build for that. We have the bulls. Bulls do just fine, although the white bull I would say is better because you would want to give him a hard skin. Hard skin doesn't do overly much for our sacreds. I think blessing-wise, if you want to go imprisoned or dirt cheap, larger, weirdly enough, is actually pretty good. They have a formation fighter, so you can still fit 3 of them in a square. It gives them just a bunch of stats and a little bit of map move, and you don't have to bless them to make use of it. So anybody who has nature and earth, it has a little bit higher stocks here. We'll look at the Draken again. In late age Arco, we used a Hound of Hades. That build would be pretty good here. If you want to go all in on crafting, an Elder Cyclops could be something. Dave the Lion makes an appearance. If you want very scalesy, but you need an expander, Dave can definitely do it on the very cheap, especially if you don't care about blessing your sacreds. The Wadjet, I'm not the biggest fan of him. You could make it work maybe. His protection is just a little low for my taste, but he comes in with regeneration and fear, so he's not completely skunked, I would say. Although he would really like a fluffer for body ethereal and iron skin if you could somehow do it. Myrmidon, again, give him hard skin and then research yourself up to fire shield and he'll absolutely dominate. When he has hard skin plus berserker, he's just nigh impossible to actually hurt. And it's late age. If you eat 100 dudes, it's fine. We got more to replace that. Beyond those, I do think we want production scales. So again, because it's sloth, I just don't like the dragons. So just another womp womp there. Going up to Dom 3s, we have a lot of the classic Titans. Some people like Mother of Monsters. I'm kind of partial to Great Archon, and this is a nation that could do it. Like, get him just enough that he could, like, body ethereal, personal iron skin, fire shield himself. That's probably good enough that he could help clear your cap circle. And then he's an inspiring researcher. He also can help you do alchemy, gear him up later on with some better gear. He's an okay fighter. I feel like that chassis, it's probably properly priced because he's trying to do too much, unfortunately for him. Beyond that, Titans to flavor. We could get the Titan of Forge, again, if you're going the forging route. A lot of people like Titan of War and Wisdom as a, like, say, a dormant. This is pretty good pathing. Make sure that she has the pathing to give herself personal mistform and the defensive buffs. She has combat caster, so she can get in there. Comes in with an magic length 3 spear and a secondary attack, which is really nice, and really a full set of gear. So if she wakes up year 1 and needs to help defend you, she can pretty much do that. And we have mages that basically want things from the same pathing, so you'll end up getting magic that she would use anyways. I don't dislike this. Beyond those, a Titan of Growth is a very cheap, larger chassis. If that's just what you want to do, again, you're kind of going scales in that scenario. Titan of the Crossroads can actually be surprisingly good. Despite the fact that they're supposed to be bad at research, because there's 3 of them, they actually end up being really good at research. You kind of have to bomb your scales to make them awake, though. Kind of kills it for me here. This is a Trinity, if you didn't know. It's going to have 3 chassis, and it's going to split their pathing weirdly amongst them. Can be a little annoying if you're trying to get them to do a global or something. Can be kind of nice just to have 3 super combatants, essentially. Maybe you could get away with a dormant one, maybe you could make that work. Nether of the Moon gets you extra magic scales and extra luck scales. High astral to come in with, so maybe he's like a really budget astral something, like maybe he just gets, I don't know, extra magic range on his bless, and then his main focus is fortune telling and inspiring researcher and being a good researcher himself and just giving you good scales. That could be a thing. Beyond those, as I always say, the Nether of Many Moons, she only costs 20 for a new path, which is weird for a Titan. Most Titans at 60, 60, 60, 60. So that is pretty interesting. That is so cheap. I never seem to be able to make a good build with her, though. I don't know. I just can't seem to find one, but I know there's potential there. Dagon, he's cool but overpriced, as always. Moving up to our Dom 4s. I'm not a huge fan of any of these. We're not really looking for quickness on our Sacreds, I don't think. So that would be the main use of a Sacred Geyser or an Oracle. We could do a cheap a cheaper large on a Statue of Fertility, but for just a few points more, for 20 points more, I could have a mobile god compared to that. I think I would pay the 20 to be mobile. Maybe your mileage varies if I was just going with larger. Bronze Colossus could be kind of interesting, although he's very expensive at 360. So good amount here. I think you have a great plethora of options. You can basically make any bless you want. I do think I would probably lean towards Expander God that still has some scales is kind of my ideal build for this nation. Let's take a look at a couple that I built. All right, first up is just a bare bones basic Draken. He comes in with hard skin, 6 Dominion, which is pretty high. I paid for this with 2 Turmoil. I didn't have any problem with the Turmoil. We're going to build coastal forts, which are going to be plenty of money. We do need generally more resources than we need recruitment points for our troops that we really want. This felt just fine. I did make it very hot at heat 3. Again, just screw you, Atlantis, basically. If I have to fight you underwater, if I have to fight you on the land, we're going to fight under the sun. And in this instance, I gave him just luck 1 and magic 1, help counteract the turmoil a little bit, help our research a little bit. This guy has nature 2, which allows him to cast personal regeneration. I do think that's probably your first spell, and then you go up the alteration to get him personal iron skin and temper flesh, and you'll be very happy with that. Do note the swamp gas, and we're not immune to poison or anything, so just be aware of that. Later on, he could summon in some cave drakes or something. He kind of poops out a little bit later on, but he could help you forge things. He could do earthquakes. He could do some earth globals. Earthblood Deepwell, somehow you could get that, would be really nice, and he could cast that pretty easily. Next up, we got Biggie Rock. This is that very cheap large bless I was talking about. This is much higher in the scales. I believe I even had this guy come in awake, so you could actually make a much heavier bless if you wanted to. But yeah, just high scales. We're basically maxed out for all intents and purposes with larger. And he's just awake. He can do a Mother Oak very easily if you wanted to go that route. We're not great at getting nature gems, but if you could get some and then get Mother Oak, we could make those Hesperides and summon those in, which are pretty nice. Here's Anton the Antlion. Again, the build I was just talking about. Just hard skin plus Berserk makes him incredibly tough. And then the Fire Shield lets people just burn as they're whacking away at him. And he has both fear and he goes Berserk. So you're going to have to find a way to kill him or he's going to win the fight. The extra earth also gives him some affliction resistance. He is a guy who would really like a amulet of affliction resistance to up that a little bit higher. But beyond that, he'll do some work for you. Next, let's look at Seeker of the Sea. This is the Hierophant we were talking about earlier. This one's a little bit more of a mage bless. I just wanted to try something different. So he's got Farcaster and Resilience of the Earth. This is going to let our Sacred stand in front, whether we're doing lightning or fire, like falling fires, let's say, or thunder strikes, and be less likely to get instantly blown up by our own evocations. Farcaster, I like Farcaster a lot for acid spells and the big AoE like fire spells and whatnot, because we can lob it farther away from our lines. And ideally, we kind of poop out when they arrive and we go to sleep for a second. And then when we wake up, things are nice and in range for us to hit. So again, kind of scalesy, but not as much. He also comes in with the ability to do Aethergate. Aethergate is my favorite dump for Astral Pearls, and we do have those Pearl Cultivators. So we could make a lot of pearls and then turn those into Aether Warriors, which are just really good magic beings. They have a big great sword. They have a magic attack and magic armor. Actually, I don't think their armor is magical, but they're pretty darn good. They're definitely worth their costs, and especially if we can do the pearl farming to get that in there. So I like this guy quite a bit. Other forging, he has good cross paths for making the astral boosters, or even just the astral like rings, like rings of sorcery and wizardry, pretty easily. Could be pretty good. Also could get the earth globals if you see an opportunity for that, and just some other miscellaneous stuff to finish out the points, basically. And then finally, we got Grandpa Flippy. This is a Telkeen, obviously. When he shapeshifts, his paths change a little bit, so just be aware of that. In the Flippy form, he has the malediction, the Telkine malediction, which is, for all intents and purposes, foul vapors, and it auto casts on turn 1. So if you get lucky, you can hit people before they even have their poison resistance up. Now, he took larger and poison resistance very specifically because he can have 5 of our sacreds bodyguard him, and as long as you're in your own dominion, they will be auto blessed because your god is there, meaning they will have the poison resistance. 5 poison resistance isn't enough to fully save them, but either A, he could at some point, once you have a little research, buff their poison resistance, or he actually kind of likes to do healing touch, and because they're bodyguards, they'll stay in range for that. In my test game, I probably expanded 8 to 10 times before I started losing bodyguards. He was able to keep them alive surprisingly well, and they just kept him from getting surrounded while the foul vapors caused HP routes while I was expanding. I did avoid a couple provinces, like there was a really heavy like knight crossbow province. I was like, maybe not. And there was a couple thrones that had like a bunch of poison resistant stuff that I was like, I'll get those with a different army. But everything else was basically just an auto win with this guy. If you do go this route, you really, really, really want construction 1, and then make 10 astral pearls and make yourself an enchanted chainmail and an enchanted hat. And with those 2 things on and his self blessing, I never even had danger. He can give himself personal regen, the defensive buffs, liquid body, mist form. He can cloud trapeze, all kinds of stuff. Brings in a lot of different things. He's got 3 nature with the thought that maybe he could summon in the Hesperides and be a way to get into that. He also can bring in the Dracols, maybe be a way to get into that. Doesn't have the fire here, but he could help get boosters for other people to be able to do it. So I like this guy quite a lot. We have used Telkine in the past, and it was a lot of fun. So kind of leaning towards this guy, but we'll see what we actually end up using. Overall, I would say we have a great selection and a lot of versatility in what you can pick, and be very happy with your pretenders. In conclusion, Erytheia is a really interesting nation. There's not a ton of underwater competition in late age, and we have tools to deal with everybody. We prefer heat instead of cold, so we're less worried about Atlantis. We have some magic weapons, which helps against them and Lemuria. And while we don't have anything directly like amazing against Relay, at least we can summon in water elementals, and we have astral stuff to blast away at whatever they have. So we're not the weakest there. We also have easily recruitable Holy Twos, which is great for that. And we can commune up our priest levels if we have to, all the way up to, I never can remember the name of the spell, but the Holy level 5 spell that raises Holy 1s to Holy 2s, and can make independent mages very, very useful for us for fighting in Lemuria. So good matchups there. We are, I'm going to say, at least about equal to the other underwater nations. And on land, we're not the best, but we do have acceptable to good mages, and we have not completely worthless troops, although they definitely need magic support to shine. And we have a maybe not the best crossbow out there, but it's a crossbow. Even the worst crossbow is still a crossbow. So, and it can be used underwater, which is a pretty nice advantage against those other water nations. So overall, pretty interesting nation. I'm curious to know where people would put this on a tier list, because I think it's just so map dependent. Like a map with good coasts, like I had here, very strong, very fun. A map where you're like, you have a puddle to play in and then nowhere else to build coastal forts, you're probably not going to do it. I wouldn't even play on a map like that with these guys, because again, your recruits from a landlocked fort is that guy who is not exactly making me excited for life. So I think it's pretty map dependent, maybe more so than most nations even. So something to keep in mind there. I'm curious to see what other builds, and more specifically, I guess, other blesses. I didn't really go too crazy on the blesses. A dread bless could be kind of interesting because we already have awe on our sacreds, and fear plus awe is a really good combo. And we can pack them in pretty tight. We can have 4 of them in a square if we don't go larger because of their formation fighter. Could be kind of interesting. That's a good way to deliver fear to people. So very interesting lineup, I would definitely say. All right, builders, if you enjoyed this one, don't forget to leave a like on the video. That helps me a ton. If you are not already subscribed, I hope I've earned your subscription. And if you want to go above and beyond, you can always leave a super thanks on a video, join me live for a super chat, or consider checking out the Patreon or the membership here on YouTube. As the member on YouTube, you get early access to videos such as this or other things that I'm working on. And for both the YouTube memberships and Patreon, if you link your Discord in, then you'll get assigned a role and you can get into the file channel that has files from various games that we've played, including things like the island maps that we played from Dominion. So if you want to grab those maps and play on them, islands can be kind of annoying to generate up. You could go do that. You're welcome to them. Either way, thanks for the support. Thanks for the comments, and I will see you guys on stream. Babble out.